Hi,
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Thanks. I decided to wait until the audience is 50 people. What do you think?
Yeah, whatever you prefer. It's fine for me. Everything.
How is it everything going? How's everything going?
It's okay. I don't know what the situation is where you are in Istanbul or where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Istanbul.
Yeah. Yeah, here in Vienna we have a kind of a partial lockdown, which means we are not really in a quarantine moment, but when we go out, we can only go out alone or with the person we live together. And then we are not allowed to really remain on the street, so we have to keep on walking.
Yeah.
And in the supermarkets, which are still open, we have to have a space. So it's like
Mhm.
2, 3 meters from one and another apart. So this is what we have here at the moment. But today was a really beautiful day. It's spring arriving in Vienna, and that's one of my most favorite times. I have two favorite times. One is spring arriving, and one is fall arriving.
Yeah.
So this is the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's raining here. You're lucky.
Uh, well, I'm sure this weather will come to you soon. It's going in your direction. It will be
Yeah.
sunny soon in Istanbul.
I think we can start. Before that, I want to ask the audience if they need translation. So, uh, okay.
So we do, you want to do everything in English and then translate it?
Yeah, maybe. I will ask the audience if they need a translation, or we can continue in English.
I think we continue in English and then we can translate forwards and backwards, however
O-
you feel it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. So, the first question is very easy for you, I think, but this needs to be known. Uh, are you ready? It might be hard. What does a conductor do? Why do we need a conductor?
Well, this question, when it arrives, raises always a lot of opinions because some of the orchestra musicians say, actually, we don't need a conductor, we can play our own. But this, of course, refers to the music. So all the orchestra musicians have the music in front of them. They are all perfectly trained musicians. And basically, to play the music, they don't need a conductor. What the
Yeah,
conductor is doing, that the orchestra members, between 30 and 200 people, playing with the same spirit of the music. So the conductor basically focuses all the ideas about the music to become one idea. This is done in the rehearsal normally. And then it's presented to the audience like this. We say it's an interpretation concept. So the conductor basically is nothing else than channeling all the knowledge of the orchestra, of all instruments together at one point with his or her ear. The conductor is deciding what is important in the score, how we work on this, how we can make the sound more quality for the audience, more sparkling. We rehearse it, we go on stage, and that's it.
yeah, thanks. We have a lot of questions, but maybe most of them are non-musical. So the
That's
first
fine.
question is here. Which living person do you most despise and why?
Despise and why?
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. Is there a living person where I'm doing this? I'm not very good in absolutism, I have to say. So those kind of questions for me are always, it's an in the moment question. So I really don't know how to answer that. Yeah.
yeah. The next one then. When were you the happiest?
It's again, this is, all these absolute questions, it's very difficult
Yeah,
because
maybe for the
because
last.
also now when we are in this situation, of course, I can think back of situations which were beautiful, but in this particular moment, where the whole world is suffering something which affects all of us, what would me personally make the most happy that we can all work together, that we
Yeah,
stop what is happening now. So the most happy moments in life for me in general are the moments when I feel humanity. So humanity also in this particular moment is something which makes me really feeling sensitive to. And so I wish really that we can get over this crisis, and that not too many people suffer, hopefully, and working together as a human society. This would make me the most happy, and this is always like that. So all my life, things which were connected to humanity, to beauty, also make me the most happy.
So the next one, you started playing the violin at an early age, right? And
Yes.
then you started training for the conducting, right? So did you want to become a conductor when you were a child, or something else? What did you want to become when you were a child?
Well, in fact, yes. There is a story which always is told at this moment, which is when I was very young, 2 years old. There was a big New Year's Eve party at the apartment of my parents. And in Vienna, we played a Blue Danube Waltz for New Year's Eve. And my mother tells the story that at one point when it was played, I took a chair and standing in the middle of all the people and started to conduct all the people. And then they said, this will be a conductor one day. So in fact, yes, subconsciously, there was always something driving me towards what I called when I was a young boy, the man in the middle of the orchestra. So it's not a really conscious decision. I mean, later when you're older, you study it. But actually my whole life, yes, I've been for some reason fascinated by this profession. Let's call it like this.
Yeah. Do you still play the violin?
Well, now actually I'm starting again because what can I do the whole day? I mean, I'm reading, I'm doing some other stuff, but I definitely want to start again playing the violin, a little bit piano, and maybe also composing. I don't know. This is the time really where we have a new gift for us, which is time. I mean, everything is taken away from us. All the freedom, we cannot perform. We are afraid of getting sick or our loved ones getting sick. But one thing which the world gave us now, or the situation, is time. So I think I want to use it because it's something very rare usually.
Yeah. Would you consider giving an online concert?
Online concert, I think not so much, because the possibilities to listen to online concerts has never been more than at this moment. And I think it's not important to do that. But I started also a platform 1 week ago, which is called Check the Gate.
Yeah.
And
So
it's a community for international artists to create an online platform with different formats. So we have formats where we're introducing virtuosity. We have formats where we talk about everything off stage, very personal. And the specialty of this platform is really to deliver for the people who are watching online a very authentic and unique content from artist to artist, which you usually don't hear in the concert halls.
yeah.
So I'm more interested in connecting to the audience in a new way, to use this time to find a new way to connect to our audience too. As I also strongly believe, when everything will be restarting, there will be many more possibilities and many things will be changed. So I want to use the time also to reflect on this and maybe to introduce new formats and new ideas about the performing arts in general.
Yeah, that's great. We can recommend the audience to follow the page. It's called Check the Gate, right?
Check the Gate on Instagram. Yes, thank you very much. And on Facebook, also Check the Gate. And also on YouTube, we will always stream the shows which are live usually a couple of days later on the other big platforms. And it's created by international performing artists. We have Nemanja Radulovic today, for example, at 10:30 Central European Time. And we already had Avi Avital, Ksenia Sidorova, Gautier Capocon will come on Wednesday. So they're all great people connecting really around the globe, people from Japan, Korea. So it starts to be a really beautiful international community.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. And you have a question from the audience. Özlem, I think, asks, I would like to know how to conduct all instruments at once. She would like to know that.
Well, the conductor doesn't conduct all instruments at once because my instrument is the orchestra together. So the conductor's instrument is the orchestra. So we don't conduct every instrument individually. We always conduct all the orchestra.
Yeah. One more. He says, Osman Bey, he says, how do you feel being in the same orchestra with your father? How does he sometimes criticize you?
Well, of course, and that's good because where there is no criticism and no conflict, we cannot grow. If we are in the comfort zone all the time, it gets really boring and we cannot really reflect in an honest way. So he's a wonderful reflection with honesty and all the vibrations of a musicians of more than 60 years of experience with the greatest conductor from Furtwängler to Karajan, Kleiber and Bernstein, and combines this. And when he's in the orchestra and I'm conducting, of course, it's the best and most authentic reflection one can ask for.
Yeah. The next question is mine. So, sorry. What was the most? But actually, you can call there's things called epic fails. Maybe you see them on.
Yeah, I saw some of them. Yeah.
Did you have one or more? And can you give an example if you have?
Fails on stage.
Yeah.
I was pretty lucky, I have to say. I mean, there was once when I was slipping under the conductor's podium because I had shoes with a leather sole, and the surface of the conductor podium was very slippery. It was a carpet, very new. So I was making a move like a step and was slipping under the podium between the stand and the podium. And that was very dangerous because you can hit your head up and then just cut your head basically. But I was lucky, but it was a kind of epic fail because everything stopped. The stand fall down, the orchestra stopped to play. You know, it was a huge disaster, so to say. That I would describe was one of the epic fails, which ended in a good way, thank God.
Yeah, lucky for you. So, what makes you unhappy? This is a non-musical question, generally.
Well, it's like the first question, right? Was the most happy? What is about unhappiness? You know, I think many of us artists, including me, we really want to make people happy. So we really fight for that. That's our passion. We want that the people with our art feeling in a certain way happy. So I think when we cannot achieve that, we are really unhappy. So, you know, when somebody is coming after the concert and is angry or is, you know, not in the spirit we are in the music, also myself, then we are very unhappy. And but that's an artist's destiny in a certain way.
Yeah. One more question from the audience, Mr. Erol. I think. What was your first concert in Turkey, and can you describe it?
It was with Borazan Istanbul Philharmonic Orchestra. It was 2008. I conducted the Bruch Violin Concerto and second half Dvorak Ninth Symphony. And I remember very well, like it has been yesterday, because the reaction from the orchestra to the chemistry to me was amazing. It was like really lighting up a little match in front of a gas pipe. So there was a little energy coming from me, and there was a exploding from the orchestra. It was so many young, great musicians, all perfectly trained, all ready to grow, to conquer the world in classical music. And it was an unforgettable concert for me. So I will never forget it. Yeah, it was in spring 2008. Yeah.
So next question is, you have been criticized for your last Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and then conducting it. What would you say to those criticisms?
Oh, I think criticism, you know, is okay.
Like unconventional performance. I think it was great, but you know, some people criticized you so much.
Oh, that's okay. I think it's very important to give something to criticize. We artists are not, again, for the comfort zone. We are here to inspire and also to give a lot of fire inside. The Beethoven 5 was received internationally on the highest levels, and that's really what counts. That Boris and Istanbul Philharmonic, with this Beethoven 5 interpretation, was ranked among the top interpretations of Beethoven 5 in this moment.
Yeah.
And I'm working for the music. I'm working for the art. I don't work for individual people, so to say. I have to work for my musicians so that they really keep up with the pace of the international stages. And I would just tell all the critics, as I say always, please open your eyes and your ears especially, and get away from your predisposed, opinions. If the criticism is really defined, so it means, for example, Meister Goetzel took in the transition from the third movement to the last movement, the tempo too fast, and that's why we have the feeling that the last movement was actually slower than the third movement. Then it would be, for me, a criticism I immediately reflect on. But all the criticism, also that concert I was reading, was just personal criticism of feelings. And I'm definitely not here to accept other people's feeling inside of my feelings. That's their problem. So if anybody has a problem with their feelings while listening to Beethoven 5, then they should go home and reflect on it themselves. But from the but from the interpretation point of view, so we only talk now the professional level. From the interpretation point of view, and from the playing of Boris and Istanbul Philharmonic is one of the best Beethovens we ever played. And internationally, it was exactly recognized at that.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
The next question is, you've been living in Turkey for the last 12 years, right? Like, you go and come, but you live here mostly.
Well, I don't live in Turkey, so that must be clear. I live in Vienna, and I have been in between always for the project. So this means I'm in Turkey between 8 weeks altogether. So it's not more than this, because each project requires 4 or 5 days of rehearsal time. Yeah. It's a big misunderstanding, sometimes.
Let's correct that. You don't live in Turkey, but you had the time to know the Turkish audience, right?
Well, but that's for sure, yes.
So what would you say if you compare the Turkish audience to the European audience?
Well, it changed.
Yeah.
It changed a lot. When I arrived in Turkey, the audience was quite warm, but it was not enthusiastic. So over the last 10 years, the audience became much more enthusiastic. I also remember when I arrived, the hall was empty, 60–70% sometimes. So it was a complete different way of receiving, in a way, the classical music. But together with the Boris and Sanat team, every year we were doing our programs really with a lot of thoughts and a lot of love, and really wanting to give to the audience that feeling, now we take you to a journey, which will take you, because you're with us, international. We love you and we want to give you the best music you deserve. So every year, I think we were developing even more exciting programs and bringing even more exciting soloists as well. So now the audience in Turkey is amazing. I mean, for me, it's a real close relation. When I arrive there, I almost feel everybody in the hall, and the audience is the same. So it's such a pleasure, it's such a joy. The last years have been really something so beautiful for an artist and for an orchestra, which is very difficult to describe in words.
Yeah.
I love performing. I love working with my orchestra and the whole team. It's really a very special situation. A conductor, especially now, can only dream of, because it's not very given.
Yeah, thanks for that. We have a question from the audience, Miss Ada. She says, what would you suggest for using art's healing effect in hard times like this?
Well, of course, we know from also after war times that arts, culture goes to the heart of the people. And arts and culture is the root of every society. When we are in Istanbul, we can talk about all the great museums, about what has happened there. Why is the city Istanbul Istanbul? It's because of the culture, which has been there for such a long time, for more than 2,000 years, changing in so many ways. So culture and art is the roots of any society. And I think this is what the people should understand. And they also go to the concerts, and now they can see it from at home. They go to the museums. I think it's just like this, and I wish that everybody enjoys that, you know.
Yeah. I think she got the answer. So the next question is, do you have a special talent that you have never said to anyone or performed it, you know?
I don't know, you know, it's about special talents is most of the time.
Maybe like a hidden talent.
Yes, well, if it's hidden, then I don't know it. So I think most of the time we don't know if we have a special talent, because in reflection from the other people, we actually realize what is a special talent or what could be. So to be honest, I don't know. It would be beautiful to find out, you know. I tried painting. It's horrible. When I'm writing poetry, nobody understands it except me. So architecture, I would have to study that the buildings are not falling down. So I don't know if I have any special talent rather than music in that way. But maybe, I really don't know.
Okay. So Mr. Yunus asks, what do you recommend to young conductors?
Young conductors in this particular moment, I can only tell you, use the time to study. Get your scores, get your Beethoven scores, and take your Sacre du Printemps. Study what you can, read books what you can. Also train your muscles, because conducting without the right muscle training is really not working very well. And this is what you do, and you just do it every day a little bit. And I think for the young conductors, it's actually a little bit of a breathing time. You don't have the stress to make a career in this particular moment. So use it for studies. I'm here, I'm restudying, I'm rereading. This is a wonderful time to do that.
Yeah, so you suggest they should use the time we have now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the time is the biggest gift we have at the moment. You know, everything is difficult and we don't know. But the one thing we have is time, so that's what we should use.
The time to be creative. So, do you still get excited before a concert?
Yes, of
course.
Yeah,
what do you do excited? Like, do you have rituals before a concert? Like,
I used to have a lot of rituals, but now the last years I start to get rid of them to be a little bit more light and more directly in the moment. So now I don't really have rituals, just I need a little bit silence. This I still need. So I need, sometimes depends on the piece, 1 hour, 2 hours, depends on the piece really. Silence, really silence. So my ears are getting cleaned up and my reflection in my brain to my ears get cleaned up to be really fresh on stage. But for the rest, no, I don't really, not eat too much maybe, because if I eat too much, I get heavy and the tempo gets slow. So that's good. But no, actually, no. So
okay. So one more question from the audience. Mr. Earl again says, what were your thoughts on the Borusan İlber Ortaylı concert? Were you pleased with it?
Well, I think it was great. I mean, it was one of the new concert series we developed at Borusan, and I was very happy being able to combine art and history, because it's so connected, and usually the people don't understand the connection. Why were pieces written? Beethoven composed the Eroica because of Napoleon, and Beethoven 5 was written as a revolution symphony. This is also why, in my opinion, it needs today be a revolution for the audience. So the reaction actually, even the critics don't know it, but was the most and the biggest compliment they can give me, because we wanted to make a revolution that night, the orchestra and me. So they reacted without knowing exactly the perfect way.
I think that some people said it was too long for a concert, but you know, every music has a history, has a story. This needs to be given, and it needs time, I think. What do you think?
You know, if people think a concert is too long, they should just leave. It's not up to us. You know, we present them art. We don't present them a radio station where they can tune in and tune out. So when you come to a classical music concert and you feel it's too long, just leave. There is no problem with that. We don't have a problem with that. And also, one thing people should never forget, when you initiate something completely new, always you have to learn. When we do the same concert again, then we have to learn from it and we do some things better. And we know most of the time very well ourselves that, for example, this concert was too long, but we didn't know how it will turn out in the end because we don't talk about the whole concert in every detail. We prepare in the rehearsals the framework, then we go to the concert. So for sure, we're doing this concert again because it was such a huge success. So we will do this again if everything goes well. And then we will definitely make it from the timing better. But this is just a timing issue. The timing issue has nothing to do with the value of art. I mean, go to Nicolas Cage or go to Glenn Gould or go to Andy Warhol, all those people. What does time mean? Nothing. We make art to be timeless. So this is a complete different level of understanding of art.
Yeah. I have one word for a person. Beril Hanım, eğer sorunuzu tekrar sorabilirseniz ben de Saşa'ya sorabilirim. Çok sağ olun. Çünkü çok yukarı gitti. Sorry for that. Who's your favorite composer and your favorite piece?
There can't be a favorite composer for a conductor.
Yeah, one favorite.
It's really that you connect in that moment when you study to composers, and sometimes it's going better and sometimes it's going not so well. But for me, it's easy. I'm born in Vienna, so I'm very privileged. So I have in my DNA the whole Viennese culture of composers. If I want or don't want, I cannot change it. So I feel very comfortable with the whole classics coming out of Vienna. And I have also a strong connection, as everybody knows, with the Russian music, also with our Sherazade recording. And now I also getting more and more into the Italian music and Italian operas. So it's really like everybody has to imagine one thing. When you are going and you're growing in your life, you change taste. Just imagine all of you who are sitting now in front of this screen and you're old enough, all of you, just 10 years, go back from now 10 years. What was your taste? What did you like? What did you think? So for us as performing artists, it's exactly the same. So we are changing. There is no absolute truth. It's always a fluctuation of things from experience. And this is the same. So there is no favorite composer because it's changing all the time.
Okay. So do you listen to music like other genres other than classical music? This is...
Yes. So all kind of musics, and when I'm an 80s boy, so the whole Queen and the whole Duran Duran and whatever it was, Falco in Vienna, it was all my music. I don't make a difference between classical music and all the other music. For me, I always say this: there is only good and bad music for myself. Good music is which touches my heart, and bad music for me is which doesn't touch me. That's easy. Yeah. But the genre of music doesn't make a difference.
Okay. Miss Beryl asks, we notice at Borsan concerts you choose unknown pieces. Is that done for a special purpose?
Oh, of course. I mean, if I don't introduce new pieces, then we play Tchaikovsky Fifth Symphony for another 10 years and everybody loves it, but we're not moving forward. It's like in fashion. Do you want to see the same fashion on the catwalk every year? It would be boring after a while. So as a artistic leader, I have to take care to introduce new pieces, and some pieces are more liked by the audience, some are less liked. But in the end, it adds the variety, which is important, because if you're wearing the same haircut for 50 years, you would look very ridiculous. So we don't want to look ridiculous, and this is very important to be diverse.
Yeah. If you look at the repertoires of Borsan Philharmonic, do we see your musical tastes there, or?
No, the musical taste you see in the interpretation.
Yeah.
A taste has nothing to do with choosing repertoire. Choosing repertoire has to do with the audience, what the audience demands on one hand, and on the other hand, what the orchestra needs to develop. This is how you choose the repertoire. So there is an artistic value. So for the orchestra, what's important and what is important for them to shine, not only in Istanbul, but everywhere in the world. And then you choose it for your home. So for Istanbul audience, what are we choosing every year that the Istanbul audience gets the pieces they really love? So this is the combination how you choose the repertoire. It has nothing to do with my personal taste.
Okay. So, is there a special person, like a soloist, that you had the best time while conducting?
It's so funny because the people always asking those black and white questions. I have to tell you, you know, all of you in front of your screens, there is no black and white in music and in any art. If that would be black and white, good or bad, we would not have the diversity of art we have today. There are probably hundreds of thousands conductors, hundreds of thousands violinists, hundreds of thousands composers, hundreds of thousands fashion designers, architects, and poets. And all of them today, because of the schools, they're pretty good. So I would like to see all of them performing, all of them seeing the things. Just imagine you're decorating something with just two colors. It would be completely boring. So I think it's very important to understand the concept of being an artist, which has nothing to do with black and white, but only with depth. And depth is only realized with as many colors as possible in your imagination.
Yeah, thanks. We have lots of questions from
Yes.
the audience. The first one, what are your thoughts about Shostakovich?
Well, what a great composer. I mean, and what a life he had, almost ending up after this Fifth Symphony, you know, going to Siberia. It's really probably one of the most soulful composers of the Russian culture. This is a music which touches me deeply and really gives me the feeling that there is something more than just the believing in real life, but the believing and the hope of something else. So Shostakovich opens a transition to something which goes beyond the human understanding with the mind. So it's just an incredible composer with so many colors and darkness, and the way he was writing also has to do with making a revolution with his music against the regime of Stalin. So he was capable of writing the music that way that Stalin was accepting it in the end, but the people felt the revolution within the music. So it's something else, I think. Yeah. It's really, yeah, from the depth is one of the deepest composers for me personally. Yeah.
Yeah. Which country or city is your favorite to visit? Ms. Edabar asks.
My favorite what?
Your favorite country or city to visit?
To visit?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I love Paris, I love New York, I love London. Those are really the cities I feel very closely connected, and the atmosphere is beautiful. Of course, Istanbul is also an amazing city. I mean, it's a jewel, really.
Yeah.
So those cities, I would say, next to my home city, are the cities I really always, when I'm there, I feel very happy and really enjoy living there.
But not now. We need to stay at home, right?
Now we cannot go really very far. Yeah? I even had a hard time coming back home and not being between borders. But now we have to stay home. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you recommend to new musicians? For example, I've been playing the piano for 4 years. My attention is losing easy, and I'm still exited every piano exam. Exited every piano exam. I'm sorry.
So this is about being nervous, or what is the question?
I think she is a amateur player, and she's starting to get her, attention together again. She is playing.
Focus.
Yeah.
Hi, Jan. Yeah, the focus is very important in music, and it has to do when you come on stage, because in a certain way we all world masters when we're in the practice room, but then opens this magic door and we go on the stage, and then the adrenaline sets in and overpowers our mind and our control system. So there are techniques which you can learn actually. One of the techniques I can share here, because it's very quick, it's that you only imagine the things you want to do when you play. And you don't imagine that you want to avoid mistakes. When you want to avoid mistakes, already your mindset is going to the mistake channel. But when you focus on the things you want to create on stage, then your mindset already goes in the creation platform. And this is by far more efficient and better on stage. So this is, but there are other techniques you can learn.
Yeah. And Mr. Otasoy, thanks you. I just want to thank you, Sascha, for the performance in the Brahms' first piano concerto. I wanted to thank before, but there was no chance, like face-to-face talking at that time.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are you eased with Lütfi Kırdar? What's your favorite place to perform in Istanbul and in the world?
Well, Lütfi Kırdar has a big problem. It's not a concert stage.
Yeah.
So whatever we do there, we do it with so much effort, where we know now, because we were touring around Europe and also Asia partly, where we're using in other halls maybe 60% only of the energy, creating much more beauty. So Lütfi Kırdar has two problems. One problem, it's not a concert stage. And the second problem is that the orchestra cannot hear itself, the musicians in the orchestra. They used to hear themselves in concert halls. So, of course, for me, it would be so beautiful that Istanbul city invests in a concert hall for the people of Istanbul, because it can host all the greatest orchestras in the world from one season to the other. And also it would be a wonderful home for the Borusan Istanbul Philharmonic Orchestra, which is an international recognized top orchestra now. But it's an investment, you know, I cannot control. I try to talk with the people from Borusan, and they are happy to help. But of course, we need a synthesis of will from the politics as well as from the sponsorship. And I wish for the people of Istanbul, and for all orchestras of Istanbul actually, and musicians, to have a concert hall again, because since Atatürk Center is not anymore, there is really not a place for the center of the performing arts in Istanbul.
Okay, so we have, this is the last minute, and this is the last question. Can you tell us one of your funniest memories on stage?
The funniest memories on stage. Well, I remember one thing. I was conducting Le Nozze di Figaro, and I got a telephone call, and they said, our Susanna is sick. And I said, okay, well, we have an extra Susanna anyways. Yes, we call her. And then I went to the dressing room half an hour before the performance, and then they called me in the dressing room saying, this is not available, this Susanna, because she's just giving birth to her baby. I said, okay, so what will happen? Well, actually, it's like this. We found a Susanna, but this was at the Volksoper in Vienna at that time. And they were singing Le Nozze di Figaro of Mozart in Italian. In German. And they found the Susanna singing in Italian. But she could not sing from the stage, but from the pit. So when I arrived in the pit, I had the situation that I had a Le Nozze di Figaro on stage. They were all singing in German. There was one Susanna walking back and forth and being on stage, but she was not singing. And there was one Susanna sitting in front of me in the pit and singing in Italian what they were singing in German. So this was a situation where I was just sitting in the pit and saying, that's unbelievable. This is really, I will never forget this in my life. But the audience was very amused, talking about art, you know, and interpretation. It was a real live performance, something you only experience probably once in your life, and unforgettable for all of us who were in that evening in that opera house.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goetzel.
Thank you
for your time and your precious time. We want to see you again That's all. Thank you so much.
With pleasure. Thank you so much, and all good luck to the people of Istanbul. Love you all. Stay
Thank you.
healthy and stay inside. It's so important. Really, we are the host of this virus. So if you're not giving the virus the chance to be infected, all will be good in a couple of weeks. So please stay inside and protect all your loved ones.
Yeah, hashtag stay at home.
Yeah, thank you. Teşekkürler.